So here's an example of a paper-based test, writing task one. So as you can see in writing task one, there is an introduction, there is an overview, and there is a body paragraph one and body paragraph two. Now for writing task two, academic, also called argumentative essay. Now there is a question, an essay question that the candidate has to write, has to give an opinion or has to discuss. So here's the example essay question for writing task two. Now in this writing task here, again, the candidate has to complete this task for 40 minutes. And as you can see here in the sample answer, paper-based test, IELTS writing task 2 paper-based test. So there is an introduction, there is a body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, and conclusion. Okay. Now for IELTS speaking, so let's move on to IELTS speaking. Again, let's review for IELTS listening or IELTS listening test. So in IELTS listening test, there are uh, there are 4 sections in the test, and each section has 10 questions. And the candidate has to write the answer in the booklet, and he or she has 10 minutes transfer time. The total time for listening is roughly 25 to 30 minutes. Now for IELTS reading, the total time for the test is 60 minutes. There are 3 passages for IELTS reading, and each passage contains around 13 questions, 13 to 14 questions. And each passage should be completed for 20 minutes, or at least 20 minutes. Now, for IELTS writing, there are 2 tasks. There is writing task 1 and writing task 2. So for writing task 1, that's a data or diagram essay, and it should be completed in 20 minutes. And for writing task 2, it's also called argumentative essay. So the student should answer or should write a short essay from the essay question. And he or she has to complete the task in 40 minutes. So that's a total of 60 minutes for both writing task 1 and writing task 2. Okay, so that's clear for listening, reading, and writing test. Now let's move to IELTS speaking. So for speaking, there are 3 parts, and the total time for IELTS speaking is 11 to 13 minutes. Now there is a speaking part 1, which is also called the interview. Now the test lasts roughly 3 to 5 minutes. Now there's also speaking part 2. Now this is also called the individual long term. Now the total time for speaking part 2 is roughly 4 to 5 minutes, and that includes preparation time. So that means in this part or speaking part 2, the candidate has a 1 minute to prepare for the answer. Now, there's also called speaking part 3. So for speaking part 3, also called two-way discussion, so that means the examiner and the examinee, they discuss certain topics, all right? And the total time for this is roughly 4 to 5 minutes. And this does both speaking part 1 and part 2 don't have preparation time, okay? So that's for IELTS speaking. Now let's check an example here for IELTS speaking part 1. So here are some examples here are some example questions for speaking part 1, the interview talking about health. And here's an example of IELTS speaking part 2, the individual long term. All right. And again, in this speaking part, the candidate has 1 minute to prepare for the answer. And this is the speaking question for speaking part 2. And for speaking part three, also called a two-way discussion. So in this speaking part, the examiner and the candidate has to discuss certain topics. So that means the candidate has to make an effective argument to the discussion. So here are the example questions for speaking part three, or discussion questions for speaking part three. Topic is about health. Okay. Now that's the overall IELTS speaking academic covering the four skills. So we have the listening, reading, writing, and speaking. So you may answer these comprehension questions right here. All right, and yes. Yes. So let's move on to IELTS speaking. So today we're going to cover again. We're going to cover here IELTS academic, the overview of the IELTS academic. So that means the overview of four skills: the listening, reading, writing, and speaking test. And we also have to cover here IELTS speaking, or the overview of IELTS speaking. Okay. So let's check here IELTS speaking. So what is IELTS speaking? So as we have checked earlier, the test has three parts, and the total time for this speaking test is roughly 11 to 13 minutes. So there is a speaking part one, also called the interview, and the total time is roughly 3 to 5 minutes, and there's no preparation time. For speaking part two, also called the individual long turn, the total time for this part is 45 minutes, and that includes preparation time. And lastly, there's also speaking part three, or the final part is a speaking part three, also called the two-way discussion. The total time here is 45 minutes, and just like speaking part one, there's no preparation time. Okay. Now, to understand IELTS speaking, let us understand here the four criteria in which the candidate has to be awarded. Okay, so we have here FC, or fluency and coherence. We have here LR, lexical resource, or the vocabulary. The third one, we have here GRA, or grammatical range and accuracy. So this is the third criteria in which the candidate is awarded. And the last one is pronunciation. Now let's take a look first at the progress report, okay, of a student to understand these criteria. So this is a criteria here. So in the first, this one, I will highlight here the fluency, all right, fluency and coherence. The second one is fluency and coherence, speaking part one, part two, and part three. The points awarded for each part. Lexical resource, part one, part two, and part three. The point awarded for each part. GRA, or grammatical range and accuracy, speaking part one, part two, and part three, and the score awarded for each part. And pronunciation, speaking part one, part two, and part three, and the score awarded for each part. Okay, yeah. And the total there for the total score for this student is 6.5. Speaking in the actual test, the student here got 6.0 in speaking. So let's continue. Now for band 7.0 or 7 in speaking, for fluency, the candidate is expected to speak at length. He or she has to use connectives with flexibility and ideas are clear. Number two, for vocabulary, if to get a score of 7, the candidate has to use wider range of vocabulary to discuss unfamiliar topics. Of course, he has to use these words more flexibly and more accurately. Then for GRA, he or she has to use your simple and complex sentences with very minimal errors or mistakes. And lastly, for pronunciation, he or she has to have it can be generally understood. Now we check here speaking part one. So for speaking part one, the candidate will be asked topics about places, things, events, and people. Again, for speaking part one, the candidate will be asked of topics such as places, things, events, and people. And for this speaking part for fluency, the candidate is expected to speak at length. So that means when we speak at length, he or she is expected to use here complex structures. So the criteria here, if you go back to the criteria for grammar or GRA, it says here speaks at length for FC, and for grammar uses combined simple and complex sentences. All right. So which is why in speaking part one, the candidate is expected uh, to speak at length and should use here complex sentences. Okay. So here's the example answers. Let's listen to the example answer here.
What do you like about the area where you live?
Oh, I really like the sea and the part of the city just by the sea because it's very beautiful and there are always lots of people there. I live in the suburbs, but I enjoy going shopping in the city center. There are plenty of good shops and I like buying clothes.
What things in Muttra do you not like?
I'm not very keen on the hot weather, and the hot wind from the desert is something I don't like.
How is the area changing?
They're building more houses and roads. It's getting busier.
What do you like about the area where you live, Kwan?
I find walking in the mountains very enjoyable. And another good thing is the people, because they are very friendly and generous. I think people in my village are very happy and relaxed.
What things in your village do you not like?
Well, I live by a busy main road, and I find the traffic very unpleasant. I really dislike the noise of cars and lorries.
How is the area changing?
There's more traffic, so the village is becoming noisier. Also, young people are leaving the village, so it isn't so lively.
Okay, so again, as you hear from the example answer there, the candidate tried to speak at length. Again, in speaking at length, one is expected to use here complex sentences. Okay. Now here's another example for speaking at length. So as you can see here, the highlighted red words highlighted in red here, these are conjunctions. Okay, so these are signals to here. These are conjunctions which signals or which helps candidate extend their answers. All right. Okay. So speaking part one again. So in summary, speaking part one, the interview, it is a simple interview for test takers, basic information. And again, in this speaking part, the candidate is expected to answer questions to answer questions about places, things, events, and people. All right. And they're also expected to speak at length. All right. And to do that, he or she has to use here complex sentences, or to extend their talk. They are expected to use here complex sentences. Okay. So let's take a look here at the example. All right. Actual
Good morning.
tests
Good morning.
for speaking.
My name is Phil Smith. Can you tell me your full name, please?
My name is Sausan Hassan.
Thank you. And can you tell me where you're from?
I'm from Syria.
Can I see your identification,
Yes,
please?
sure.
Thank you, that's fine. Now, in this first part, I'd like to ask you some questions about yourself. Let's talk about what you do. Do you work or are you a student?
I'm a student.
And what subject are you studying?
English literature.
Why did you choose this subject?
Well, I like literature very much, and English is international language, so English literature is one of the best majors I've ever studied, so I like it very much.
What do you hope to do when you finish your studies?
Well, I'm planning to complete my higher studies. I'll be doing an MA, and eventually I'll be doing a PhD to be a professor in English literature.
Now let's talk about weekends. What do you usually do at the weekend?
Well, usually I go to visit my relatives or even friends. But sometimes I stayed at home just for if I have exams or something to study, so I just stay at home. But most of my time, actually, I spend it with my friends, going out for to drink something or to have fun, enjoy it.
What do you think you'll do next weekend?
Well, next weekend I have to go to a trip to York, and I'm so excited about it. Yeah.
Why?
Well, because I've heard that York, it's a very ancient city. So, and the Vikings were there, and I like the ancient things, and I like history.
Do you enjoy your weekends now more than you did when you were a child?
Well, not really. When I was a child, I just spent all my weekends playing, but now I have lots of concerns. Sometimes I have to stay at home to study. So, no, when I was a child, I enjoyed it most.
How important is it for you to relax at the end of the week?
Well, it is very important because you just relax out of the whole week because you were studying or working. So you need peace and relax and sometimes to take a great time of sleeping just to prepare yourself for the next week.
Let's talk about music. What sort of music do you usually enjoy listening to?
Well, I like music very much because I'm a singer myself. I like to sing, so I have a great taste of music. I like the classical, I like the Arabic music, and so music is very important. I have to listen to music all the day.
Has the kind of music you like changed over the years?
Well, yes, it changed because I used to listen to the almost it's slow music, and nowadays it's just in the very fast, and sometimes techno, and I don't like this kind of music. I still listen to the music that I liked, and I still have the same CDs, and all the time I listen. I sometimes listen to this music, the new music, but I don't like it. I just like to listen to the music that I liked when I was a child.
Do you prefer listening to live music or recorded music?
Well, recorded. I don't like live music because
Why?
because I feel always the singer is not good in live music, so I feel that recorded is better.
Do you think listening to music helps you study?
Yes, I always listen to music when I'm studying. Sometimes my friends make fun of me because I'm not concentrating, but actually it makes me more concentrated.
Okay, so that's the end for speaking part one. So as you can see, in the first part, the examiner asks her some few information about her. So her name, where she's from, her identification to check, all right? And then here, when the examiner says, now in this first part, I'd like to ask you some questions about yourself. So in this part here, the candidate now start to speak at length, okay, here, all right? So certainly, there is no point of speaking at length about your name, where you're from, and your identifications, obviously, okay? Now, when you have to move, or when the test move to, or when the examiner move to ask this formal part of the speaking, so this is a time that the candidate has to speak at length, okay? So here they talk about three things. The first is they talk about school. Second is they talk about weekends. And third, they talk about music, okay? So that's for IELTS speaking part one. Now let's take a look at here at IELTS speaking part two. So what is IELTS speaking part two? So again, this is also called the individual long term. Okay, so again, IELTS speaking part two is also called the individual long term. Now in this speaking part, you will be asked topics about places, things, events, and or people. In this speaking part also, this is called individual long term because you will have a cue card in which you're going to describe certain topics. So describe a certain place, describe a certain event, describe a certain things or people, etc. And again, as we have mentioned earlier, this part you have to speak longer, that is for about 1 to 2 minutes. And you have a preparation time. So we have mentioned in our introduction to IELTS that IELTS speaking part two, the total time is 45 minutes, including preparation time. So the candidate has time to 1 minute to prepare for the response. All right. Then after preparation time, he or she has to talk about this topic for 1 to 2 minutes. And after the candidate's talk, the examiner will ask him or her one or two follow-up questions. Okay. And the total time for this part is roughly 3 to 4 minutes in total. Again, the topic can range from people, things, places, or events. Okay. So let's have an example here. All right. So this is an example introduction or from the examiner. So the examiner would say, now let's listen. Okay. Yes, let's listen to a sample speaking part two here. So as you can see, this is the cue card. All right. So okay, let's listen to better understand this. Let's listen to the model answer right here.
Now, I'm going to give you a topic and I'd like you to talk about it for 1 to 2 minutes. Before you talk, you'll have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say. You can make some notes if you wish. Do you understand?
Uh-huh.
Here's a paper and pencil for making notes, and here's your topic. I'd like you to talk about somewhere you go to shop for food.
Okay, that's it. So again, the examiner here says, here's a paper and a pencil for making notes, and here's your topic. So this is a topic, this is a cue card, all right? And he said, I'd like you to talk about somewhere you go to shop for food. Okay, so 1 minute later, or before 1 minute, you have to again take down notes, all right, for 1 minute. And this is how you take down notes. So you do the window method, okay, and the candidate has to write here where the shop is, what place is like, what she buys there, and what she likes buying. And she take down notes here, take notes here, take notes here, and take notes here. All right. And after 1 minute preparation time, the candidate begins talking the answer. So the total time here that the candidate has completed is 1 minute and 35 seconds. So let's listen to the candidate's answer.
Well, I'm going to talk about where I shop for food. Like most people, I have to go shopping for food quite frequently. I live with a couple of other women and we're students, so we can't afford to eat in restaurants very often. We're all healthy eaters, but I really like going to the local market because I like organic food, and everything you get there is fantastic. It's so fresh. So let me tell you where it is. It's in this street near my home. It's a pedestrian street. You know, there are no cars. It's right in the middle of a busy district. It's opposite the station, so it's very convenient. Yeah, and what's it like? Well, it's usually pretty crowded. It's quite a popular place. There's a large number of stalls that sell food, and some shops too. I've been going there for quite a while, so I know where the healthiest food is. I usually buy things like fruit and vegetables, also meat and cheese and fish. I've got a favorite stall. It's run by a little old lady, and any of the fruit she sells is great. She weighs everything very quickly, and you can't bargain with her, but the price is always reasonable. As I've mentioned, I like it because the food tastes good, but also it's a very sociable place. People do stop and talk to each other. In fact, it's very noisy. Yeah, all in all, I like it because it's a great place to go. It's a colorful experience.
Okay. So again, the total time here that the candidate spent is 1 minute and 53 seconds. Okay. So again, for speaking part two, okay, so for speaking part two, the examiner is going to give you a topic, and before that, you will be asked to make notes. And for 1 minute, you have to take down notes on the answer that you have to talk. And for note taking, you can use this what we call a window method. So you have to, or the candidate here draws a horizontal and vertical line, cross, and take notes. Check the cue card what this place is like, what she buys there, and what she likes buying. And he or she begins taking down notes for 1 minute. Then after that, the candidate has to start talking for 1 to 2 minutes. Okay. Now the same criteria for fluency and coherence. He or she or the candidate is expected to extend the talk, and the best way to do that is to use here complex sentences. So for IELTS speaking part two, there is a structure. There's a certain structure. So one has to give an opening, and then the points. So the points here, these are the points found in the cue card. Okay, so for example, describe somewhere you like to shop for food. So somewhere you like to shop for food is a local market. This is for answer. Where this place is, so let me tell you where it is. What this place is like, so describe the place, what it's like. So it's pretty crowded. What you buy there, I usually buy things like fruit and vegetables. and explain why you like buying food at this place. I like it because the food tastes good, but it's also a very sociable place, etc., etc. And finally, the candidate here offers a conclusion. So this is the conclusion of the ending of her talk. Okay, this one. All right. Okay, so again, in summary, again, the examiner is going to give you a cue card and you are asked to prepare for 1 minute. In 1 minute, you have to take down notes. So take notes of the possible answers to your talk. Then you're going to after 1 minute preparation time, the candidate has to speak for 1 to 2 minutes. Okay. And the content of the speaking part 2 has a certain structure. So there is introduction, there is points found in the cue card, and the conclusion. Okay. All right. So again, speaking part 2 is speak longer on a topic. So you have preparation time, 1 minute preparation time. After that, you're going to talk for 1 to 2 minutes. And finally, after your talk, the examiner is going to ask you a follow-up question. The total time for this is roughly 3 to 4 minutes, including preparation time. Topics that you will be asked to talk about range from topics about people, things, place, or events. Okay. Now, for follow-up question. So here's an example of a follow-up question. Again, in this task, the candidate is asked to describe something he would like to do in the future that would be good for his health. Okay. And then the candidate take down notes here. So what he likes to do, what does it involve, when does he like to do it, and why is it good for his health. And here's the notes. And after 1 minute preparation time, so the candidate has to offer the answer or give a talk. All right, so let's listen to the example talk from this candidate.
Well, I'm quite fit because I do a range of sports like running and tennis, but I've always dreamed of taking part in a triathlon. I really like the idea of that. A triathlon's a multi-sport event, but rather a hard one. It basically consists of swimming, cycling and running events, but you have to do them one after the other. You know, there are no breaks, so it would be quite a challenge. You can do various distances for each sport. There's an Olympic distance, which I wish I could do, but it would be too much for me. However, I think I'm likely to finish if I choose a shorter course. There's one that's, I think it involves a 750-metre swim, followed by 20 kilometres on the bike, and then a 5-kilometre run. As for when I'd take part in it, I'm not sure. Looking ahead, I don't expect I'll be able to tackle it until my academic year's ended. That means I'd be thinking in terms of maybe doing it in a year's time. That would be realistic because I'd need time to train and really get into shape. It's not something that I could do in a hurry. Obviously, it would be a really healthy thing to do because it would force me to get even fitter than I am now. Plus, I'd have to eat well during the training period and get plenty of sleep and that sort of thing. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to doing a triathlon. I'd really like to do it sometime soon, and I just hope I'll be successful at it.
Have you always tried to do things that are healthy?
Oh, yes. Well, probably. I think I've enjoyed doing sport and exercise since I was a child. And I also try to eat well and get plenty of sleep.
Right, so here's an example of a follow-up question. Okay, so the examiner asks here, have you always tried to do things that are healthy? And yes, this is the answer of the candidate. Let us listen again to the follow-up question.
Have you always tried to do things that are healthy?
Oh, yes. Well, probably. I think I've enjoyed doing sport and exercise since I was a child. And I also try to eat well and get plenty of sleep.
Okay, that's it. So again, for this speaking part, so right after the candidate finish his or her talk, the examiner has to give a follow-up question. All right. So again, in IELTS Speaking Part 2, you're tasked to describe place, things, events, and people. This is also called the individual long term because you have to speak longer. And before your talk, the examiner is going to give you a cue card or a topic that you have to talk about. Then you have 1 minute to take down notes. So in taking down notes, you can use the window method in which in which the candidate can get only the cues here. And from the cues, he or she can take notes for each quadrant. All right. And after 1 minute preparation time, the candidate has to begin talking about the topic. So let's take a look here at the example actual test for IELTS Speaking Part 2. Let's listen. Let's watch the video.
Now, I'm going to give you a topic and I'd like you to talk about it for 1 to 2 minutes. Before you talk, you'll have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say. You can make notes if you wish. Do you understand?
Yes.
Here's some paper and a pencil for making notes. And here's your topic. And I'd like you to describe a special gift or present you gave to someone. All right. Remember, you have 1 to 2 minutes for this, so don't worry if I stop you. I'll tell you when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
Okay. The special gift actually I gave to my mother, and it was a necklace in the Mother Day. And actually, I've been to different shops to search for what am I going to give my mother, because you know, giving her anything is just, you feel it. It's very simple. But I looked for different shops, and I then decided to take a very lovely necklace, and it wasn't that much expensive because I was. I had the money for it, so, and I asked the salesman to wrap it for me in a very colored papers, and I just tried to put the red tie on it, and then I hide it in my. I didn't tell her about it till the party, because we usually make a party for my mother in the Mother Day, so I didn't tell her about it till at the party. And when I gave it to her, she was really happy very much, and she was almost in tears because she really liked it, and she told me, no matter how simple it is, since you think about giving me anything, so that's really great. So I was really happy for really giving her this present, and she is wearing it every time when she goes out, or and she always tell her friends about it. Look what my daughter brought to me in the Mother Day. So I really was proud and happy that she really liked it. And so every time I see it, she really she's really proud of it. And
do you enjoy giving gifts?
Yes, I really enjoy. I like even to take gifts, but I enjoy giving gifts to my friends or to the members of my family, because it shows that you are thinking of them and you really care for them.
Thank you. Can I have the booklet and the paper and pencil back, please?
Yes.
Okay, so that is the end of speaking part 2. So as you can, if you check the video, or if you check the video, you can see or hear from there that the examiner asked a follow-up question, which is this one. And do you enjoy giving gifts? All right. So this is a follow-up question, and the end of. So this is the end of our talk, and this is the end of speaking part 2. Okay. So now let's check the last part of speaking, which is speaking part 3, which is also called the two-way discussion. Okay. So again, in this part, the examiner and the candidate they have to discuss certain topics. So topics about places, things, events, and people. Okay. Now, in this part of the test also, the candidate has to understand the types of questions. So there are questions that he or she is going to give reasons, give advantages or disadvantages, or make comparisons. All right. So in this section again, the candidate will be asked questions related to speaking part 2. So for example, if speaking part 2, the candidate is tasked to talk about giving gifts. So for speaking part 3, he or she will also be asked questions to discuss about giving gifts. Okay. Okay. Now for this part, okay, there is a certain structure that the candidate must observe, all right, in order to make an effective argument. So again, not just to speak at length, but to make an effective argument. And what is that structure? That is paraphrasing, giving the reason or point, giving the explanation or explain, and giving the example. Okay, so this is a structure that the candidate must observe in order to, number one, make an effective argument, and number two, to speak at length. Okay, so here's an example here for the structure PREE, which stands for paraphrase, reason, explain, or example. So we have here paraphrase of the answer. Then after paraphrasing the answer, he or she has to give the reason or point, explain that reason or point, and then give example. Now the example that one has to give here should not be an experience. Again, I want to emphasize this one. The example should not be that of experience. Okay, so again, the example that one has to give here should not be that of experience, but it should be that of a generally observed experiences. Okay, generally observed experiences. That means majority of people or most people know this experience. Okay, so never give a personal experience. Okay, so never give a personal experience, rather give a generally observed experience. Okay, so for example here, some people buy expensive smartphones as stress relief. So this is a generally observed experience. Okay. However, for personal experience, we can say, for example, whenever I feel stress, I would always buy something that is good for me, something that I like. For example, a new phone, a treat, etc. So that is a personal experience. Okay, which is in contrast to what we call the generally observed experience. Okay, so again, for speaking part 3, after we give our explanation, we should give an example, and that example should be a generally observed experience. The question here is, should we give an example? Is it required? My answer to this is no. Okay, so it's not required. What is required here is reason and point or explain. Paraphrasing may somehow be optional, okay, but the main thing here is your reason, point, and explanation. However, if you want to make it if you want to make your argument more effective and more convincing, I think it's best if you use your paraphrase, reason, explain, and example. Okay. So again, in this speaking test, you will be asked questions to this. You will be asked to discuss topics about places, things, events, and people. All right. Now, the candidate must understand the types of questions. So there are questions that ask them to give reasons, questions that ask them to give the advantages and disadvantages, and questions that ask them to make comparisons. And to help them speak at length, and to help the candidate speak at length and make an effective argument, he or she has to follow a certain structure, that is to paraphrase, to give the reason or point, to explain that point or reason, and give an example. And again, I repeat, the example that must be given here shouldn't be a personal experience, rather it should be a generally observed experiences. Okay? So let's take an example speaking part 3 here, okay? Real, actual tests, all right?
To this. Let's consider first of all giving gifts in families. On what occasions do family members give gifts to each other in Syria?
Well, usually they give gifts on birthdays, in special occasions like, for example, the Eid in my country, and in Christmas time. So, and sometimes if anybody was graduated from college or from school, and somebody who is get out of a hospital and he's now in a very good health, so we usually give them presents and gifts.
Do people tend to spend a lot of money on gifts?
Sometimes, yeah, but it depends on the person that you are giving the gifts, and it depends on your own financial status.
Okay, let's talk about the type of gifts that children give to adults and their families. What sort of gifts do they give?
This is really interesting, because children always tend to think from their own view, that for example, if a small child is going to give his father or mother a gift, he's going to tend to give him a kind of a toy maybe, or something that is the father or the mother won't use, but because the child thinks that I like this, so I want to give it to my father. So they always give it from their point of view, that because I like this, my father is going to like it. So it's really interesting. The child, it's very simple and sometimes very humble. The gifts.
So at what age do children start to choose gifts for their parents, do you think?
Well, it depends how the parents brought them up. Sometimes I think it's when they start to recognize the real relationships, because when they were before 7 or before 6 years old, they tend not to recognize what does it mean to give a gift or to give, and even they don't recognize the relationships. But after 7, I think they start to recognize and to feel that I need to give a present to my father or mother, as they are giving me, and every time I have an occasion.
So how important do you think giving gifts is within families?
Yeah, it is important, because you always give them the feeling that you are really caring for them, and you really think of them. And whenever you give them things that they like, you feel that you're really all the time thinking of them. And it's also tied up the relationships and makes it more strong. Yeah.
Thank you. Right, let's move on from personal gifts to international gifts, if you want, and talk about international aid. What sort of aid do countries give to other countries?
Well, sometimes it gives the international aids whenever a country is in need for something and the country cannot afford to make it or to bring it, so the other countries will help her, for example, in food aids, and especially in disasters and when something bad happened to this country, so they're going to give it food aids, sometimes medical aids, sometimes psychological aids as we do, because I work in the Red Crescent, so I know what does it mean to give a psychological aids for sometimes for refugees, or for even to go for the near countries that really need. For example, in my country, we go to Iraq or to Lebanon when the invasion, and so we help them psychologically to just pass and get over this problem.
So what do you think motivates government to give aid to other countries?
Well, it is important because I feel that let us recognize ourselves that at the end we are all human beings and we are living in the same club, and it's like a small village, and we are all members of the same the same land. So I feel it's just really makes the relationships more strong, and it gives you it really lets you feel like your humanity at the end.
And do you think the aid is always helpful?
Yes, I think so. Because whenever you think of giving aid to other countries, I mean, it's when they are in need. I mean, it's really helpful.
Thank you very much. That is the end of the speaking test.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was the end of the speaking test, right? For speaking part 1, part 2, and part 3. Okay, so in this speaking part 3, they first talk about giving gifts in families, and number 2, international gifts or international aid. Okay, now in summary,
To this.
again, in summary, let's have a short summary here. So for IELTS speaking part 3, again, this is also called the two-way discussion. So here, the candidate is expected to discuss with the examiner, all right, certain topics, topics about places, things, people, and events. Okay. And the candidate has to make an effective argument, and to do that, he or she has to practice using a certain structure, and that structure there is the use of PREE method. That's a paraphrase. That is to paraphrase, to give reason, to explain, and to give example. Now again, the example here is the giving of example here is optional. All right, and personal experience shouldn't be used, rather it should be generally observed experiences. Okay, and the total time for this is roughly 4 to 5 minutes. Okay, and there's, just like speaking part 1, there is no preparation time for speaking part 3. Okay, so you may answer here comprehension questions. All right. And that is the end of our session today. So we have covered all about IELTS academic and all about IELTS speaking. Till next time.